Okay, I'm prompted to tell a story. I did not know this was coming. When I grew up, I was at a very young age given kind of the sword of choice to wield this very heavy sword in an arena that was probably bigger and earlier than most people would as children, and that is in healthcare. And it's because my mom and dad came from very different backgrounds. My dad was the son of a surgeon. My mom was the daughter of someone who was very spiritually based. So I was given at a very young age a choice between the material view of the world and the spiritual view of the world. Do I want to rely on material law, medicine, everything based in matter, or do I want to rely on divine law, spiritual law, and everything based in spirit? And because I had this really deep desire to know God, you guys know that story of me standing in the entryway of our house and looking up at the doorknob. I was 3 something. I had just come home from Sunday school and learned that God is everywhere. And I vividly remember this moment asking my mom, Mommy, if God is everywhere, is God in that doorknob? And then I looked over at the closet doorknob. One was brass and one was wood, and kind of looking at both. I don't remember what my mom said, to be honest. But I had always yearned to know more and understand more of God since I was really little. So this choice that I was given, which way do you want to go, prayer or medicine, came very early in my life. And I always chose prayer. And my dad would say, well, if they're not healed in 3 days, I'm taking them to a doctor. If it's good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for them, meaning crucifixion to resurrection, 3 days. So I was always healed. I always chose prayer. And I think my dad kind of gave my mom that sort of first aid was prayer, second aid was medicine, but I was always healed. And I never went to a doctor and I never took medicine. I mean, I went to a doctor, I think once a year for school or something. So we would have like the annual checkup. And all I remember about that was getting a lollipop when I left and riding on the little horse in the lobby. That was the doctor to me. But this whole idea of spiritual law being divine law, being this foundation on which my whole life was based, and being given that choice very early on gave me that standard of choice as a thing. It's like if I was exempt from material law, which is what we learn in this divine science, there is a law that trumps material quote unquote law. There are these spiritual laws which are always operating and always in effect, and we can rely on them very practically, and it's always there. So to have that feeling of, yeah, I'm exempt from that. Like when kids at school would say, oh, don't get near me, I have a cold. It's like, no, it doesn't apply. Like it didn't apply to me. So having that kind of freedom to choose very young, and having to stand, not having to, but getting to stand up for it, having the opportunity to stand up for it in the face of a lot of times extreme bullying, it made me stronger. It made me be sure that this was the way I wanted to go because I felt it inside. I wasn't relying on the external evidence, which is what material law tries to get us to do. It tries to say, let's look at matter and gather a bunch of evidence, and then let's tell you what's true. Not a good way to go, since that's always changing. And it's always morphing, and it's always telling you something different. And there are different rules that are being applied all the time. Like they discover something new. It's like, oh well, we were wrong about that. So now we're going to go this way. That's not to say that there's a lot of support and help that's given in the material realm of things. There are times when you need a crutch to walk, you got a broken leg, or you need a cast, or you need, some material support just to kind of keep the material stuff together for a moment until you can figure it out spiritually and then have your healing. So I'm not against, obviously, with half my my parental unit being very based in and steeped in medical law, because my grandfather was a very well-known surgeon in Boston and blah, blah, blah. had a great respect, interestingly, for the science, the divine science of Christian Science. And he was a doctor who a lot of Christian scientists went to because of that respect. Well, long story short, all of that set me up for this life of choosing. And so what was that choice based on? It was based on, and you know this from your study of divine science, it's based in who am I? What is the nature of my being? Is the nature of my being based in matter? And is that what I turn to find out who I am? Or is the nature of my being based in spirit? And do I turn to that to find out who I am? And every time I have a choice, what am I going to think about myself? What direction do I want to go? What aligns with me? What makes me happy? Every single time we get to choose, what evidence are we looking at? Who are we believing we are? What are we understanding we are? There's a thing in the lesson this week, and those of you who are visiting who don't follow the Christian Science Bible lesson, it is something that I have studied all my life and study every day, and it is definitely a source of a lot of inspiration. And you will find that this tends to come, inspiration tends to come from it many times in this. And where is the quote I'm looking for? Here. You must understand your way out of human theories relating to health, or you will never believe that you are quite free from some ailment. Interesting how she talks about you have to understand your way out of the human theories. She doesn't say blindly believe in the spiritual stuff. Understand your way out of the human theories. Understand why spirit does trump matter. Understand why that human theory isn't going to hold when faced up against a divine standard. It is not law in terms of never changing. The human theories are just that, they're theories. So we have to understand our way out of them, not blindly accept this truth that we've been told is true. Understand it, understand and dig deep around the true nature of who you are. Your honesty, your sense of humor, your character, your moral standard doesn't change if you change something physically about you. I mean, physically speaking, human bodies change from birth to death the whole time they're changing. We don't have a single cell that's the same cell that it was 7 years ago. We have completely new cells in our body. I think it takes like 7 years to cycle through. So we have completely new bodies every 7 years on a rotating basis. But what does that mean? That means that you can't look to that thing, that material thing, as a standard by which to measure anything, because it's always changing. So there are all sorts of theories about it. And thankfully, those who rely on that are helped greatly by that. And that's a wonderful thing. This is not a condemnation of the medical at all. There are dear, dear people doing a lot of really good work in that arena. But we do have an alternative. For me, it was my first aid. Spirit, spiritual law, divine science was my first aid. Material science was a second aid that was always available. I never turned to it, but it was always there. And I always had the option. So are you choosing, truly choosing, the divine science as the basis of your being? The Bible actually gives us a lot of, I don't want to say ammunition, a lot of sort of foundation for this. Put off concerning the former conversation the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness. So even way back when, back in Ephesians, way back when, we're saying the same thing. The book of light is saying the same thing. Psalms, mark the perfect man and behold the upright, for the end of that man is peace. Same thing. What are you looking at? What model are you holding in your thought? Mrs. Eddy talks a lot about the model that we're holding before our gaze. There's a science behind this. It's not just kind of wishful thinking, like, oh yeah, that's cute. It's not, it's science. It's reliable. You can turn to it. You can acknowledge that this science is operating, and it appears in your experience, the more you believe that that is true based on your understanding of letting go of the theories. Go back to that quote I shared before. By understanding your way out of the human theories, what you believe as true has power. So there's the scene in the Bible where the woman has the issue of blood for 12 years. And she touches the hem, just the hem of Christ's garment. She knows that even if she just gets a glimpse of truth, the truth about who she is, she would be healed. And what does Jesus say to her? In the end of that story, he says, flipping pages, daughter, be of good comfort, thy faith hath made thee whole, go in peace. So faith in biblical terms is rooted more in belief and understanding than it is kind of a blind faith. She understood, because she'd seen it demonstrated, that those who turned to the Christ were healed. So those of you who aren't biblical or don't believe in sort of Jesus, that's okay. Think of it as truth consciousness. When you embrace the truth of your being, that's when healing occurs. When you really see, who is man? Who have I been made to be? What has the Creator made me to be? What is my identity? And those of you who are very familiar with this, are you looking at that, truly looking at that every day and diving into that every day? I would assume, since you're here, you probably are. But are you making that choice in the little things? Are you making that choice when it comes to the day-to-day stuff? And that's the challenge that I would put before you. When you are faced with a choice, check. Am I buying into human evidence, material evidence, or am I standing on the standard of divine science, the spiritual law that is underlying all and has effect right here, right now, in every aspect of my being, in every aspect of my experience? I'm going to look for evidence of spiritual law and stop looking for evidence of material law. And I say that in air quotes, material law, because it's not law, it's theory. Look for evidence of spiritual law appearing. It's there. And the only reason we're not seeing it is we're buying into the illusion. It's the appearance of a false God. It's the appearance of, oh, God's not operating, spiritual law is not operating over here in this corner. It's the appearance of that that is the lie. We want to see the appearance of the truth. Once the lie is wiped away, we can see the truth because it's always there. It doesn't ever go anywhere. It doesn't ever disappear. It's always there. There were so many things I wanted to share. Put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness. So we said that. So let us rejoice that we are subject to the divine powers that be. Such is the true science of being. That's a quote from Science and Health. Let us rejoice that we are subject to the divine powers that be. Are we rejoicing? Like, did you wake up happy today that you are subject to the divine powers that be? Like, think about that. You're subject to the divine powers. Divine power is in effect in your life right here, right now. And there is nothing else going on. So that gives us hope. That gives us faith. We can demonstrate, we can reach for the edge of the Christ garment, the edge, just the very edge of truth consciousness, of seeing and understanding that the divine powers that be are present right here, right now. Just get just a little glimpse, just a thread. Doesn't take much. It doesn't take much. Science knows no lapse from nor return to harmony, but holds the divine order or spiritual law in which God and all that he creates are perfect and eternal, to have remained unchanged in its eternal history. So divine order, think about that. Divine order, spiritual law. Spiritual law, she makes a dash between the two, like equates the two. So spiritual law is divine order. How is divine order appearing in your life? Where are you seeing divine order expressed? Do you have a messy house? You might want to look for more divine order. Like, it comes down to really simple stuff like that. This isn't just all lofty. Like, if you're starting to be bothered by messes around, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. It's like we stop feeling comfortable in what doesn't align with divine order, with spiritual law. And look at where that's happening in your life. Look at the little corners. Look at those little edges of the Christ garment. Because when we see the little places and we uncover them a little bit more, and we start recognizing the appearance of truth and give it a little bit of space, it grows. Like, wipe away the dust, let it get some sunlight, and it starts to be a big tree. Okay, let's bring it in. So I'll leave you with this thought that divine science, not material science, divine science, reveals the grand facts of existence, the true facts of existence, the true facts of your being. That's what you're going to find in divine science. And it has knowing who you are, truly knowing who you are, based in the divine, is healing. So you can demonstrate this. You have everything that you need to demonstrate this. Those of you who are guests and visiting, welcome. And if you want to sign up for March, please feel free. Those of you who are visiting, go to morningmetaphys.com and you'll get the newcomer thing. Most of you guys who are members already have done your thing, but if you haven't, go to lisataylorcs.com and choose your poison. Choose your gift. Choose your level. I just want to say thank you. Thank you to those of you who show up. I'm just really grateful. I'm really grateful to be called to do this, and I'm really grateful to be able to be the conduit, because it's not about me on any level. This is like, I've been called since I was little, and finally I get to play in the arena that God has put me. So thank you. Thank you guys. See you tomorrow. Lots of love. Go practice. Go look for evidence. Go look for spiritual evidence. Find those little places. All right. Lots of love. See you tomorrow.